If everyone can hear me fine. Well, thank you to the organizers for inviting me and allowing ApiJect to speak more on this topic. Over the course of the next 25 minutes, I will share information on the sterile fill finish supply chain, some of the challenges that are impacting access to critical meds and vaccines, introduce you to ApiJect as a company, what we're doing to solve some of those challenges, and lastly, how we're partnering with sponsors, FDA and U.S. government to bring much needed innovation to this industry. So the key problem in the industry facing, COVID exposed this, is really the manufacturing challenges of the vaccines and critical meds and bringing those to market and how that's impacting access to these medicines for patients in developed countries and globally. And then the opportunity for ApiJect is to solve these problems and presents alternative solutions to what we're seeing today and what historically has been in the industry. So quick overview of the market. We're all familiar with the growth of the sterile fill finish. You know, it's being driven primarily by biologics, the growth of peptides, and cell and gene therapies. So the market, the sterile fill finish market, is growing even larger than the pharma industry itself. And within that section, that subsection, is prefilled syringes. You know, because of safety, reduced drug waste, ease of use by the end users, that market is growing nearly twice as fast as the sterile fill finish industry as a whole. And so, you know, the key question we ask ourselves when we're engaging stakeholders, healthcare providers, patients, regulators, all things being equal, if your drug or vaccine can go into a prefilled format, what's stopping us from getting there? Drivers in the market right now, there is a trend towards sub-Q. Many biosimilars and oncology drugs that historically been IV or IV infusions, moving to sub-Q. Vaccines, monoclonals, peptides and such are driving the growth in this market. You know, as folks are looking at injection platforms, you know, common things are what they're looking for: design flexibility, ease of use is paramount. We talked a lot about that yesterday, having a good user experience. And then where are the customer trends going? Where are the markets going? Overall, healthcare costs are a big driver to reduce healthcare costs. We see that across. I'm based in the U.S., so we see it here in the U.S. I know it's a trend in the U.K. and in Europe as well. So how can we move from hospitals to clinics to home base? Sub-Q does lend to that in some ways. But as we move to self-injection, then we have to have an easy-to-use device. Patients want simplicity. They don't want things to be more complex. And then part of this, as you're moving down that path and these medicines either get more expensive or are critical, patients want to know that it's not counterfeit, it's the right medicine, not expired. They want to see a complete chain of custody, so to speak, from manufacturing point to injection. ApiJect has a solution for that, but there's many other companies that are also developing this kind of traceability. It's good for the patients, good for the industry. So COVID exposed many of the fragility of the supply chain. There was a direct impact to access to medicines across the globe. In the United States, you continue to see drug shortages. They're lasting longer. There's more drugs going on the shortage list. We're seeing it as well in the EU. The WHO has a central drug list that continues to expand because they can't get access to these. A couple of key things. During COVID, it exposed up to 50 million children still, as of 2023, are under or unvaccinated because during COVID, the capacity wasn't there to support the COVID drugs in development and the vaccines, as well as just the common medicines that are being manufactured. So it was a binary choice in many cases of either or. So you saw this hold go on immunization. And the issue during COVID wasn't necessarily that there wasn't enough vaccines available. It was, how do I get the vaccines into a vial or prefilled syringe and distributed to the markets? It was a huge problem in the industry then, and it still continues to this day, hence I referenced the drug shortages. And then when you look at wastage and overfill, that was a key problem in COVID. About 50% of vaccines in global health markets were simply wasted and thrown away because of the challenges of lining up, getting the vaccines there, getting the patients, and vaccinating them efficiently. So that took hold within the global health markets. There's a substantial change going on right now in global health markets and how they're changing their procurement strategies to a total cost of dose delivered versus just how many vaccines that I purchased. Dosing errors is another key issue with vials and multi-use vials. So over 1 million people die per year still from reuse of needles, poor injection practices, and dosing errors. So prefilled formats address a lot of that, but we know the challenges outside developed markets, lower income, middle income countries, they can't support the cost of prefilled syringes, let alone auto injectors. So there's a lot of talk yesterday about how do we serve the needs beyond developed markets and start thinking globally, because our responsibility as an industry is to serve global needs, not just where all the money is and where the developed markets are. So this is just a snapshot of the supply chain, and this is typically to make prefilled syringes and vials. The point of the slide is really to show the number of steps it takes just to get vials, stoppers, and crimps to a CDMO or a sterile fill finish site to actually fill the drug. And as we saw in COVID, any break in this link in the chain will impact your ability to fill. So looking at how do we simplify supply chains and make them more resilient has been a focus for ApiJect. So we have, in essence, 3 primary raw materials: LDPE pellets, which are used to make our container, polypropylene and steel cannula to make the needle hub connectors. All of those readily available, stockpilable, accessible, and can be stored at the site for manufacturing. So as you look at your portfolio, questions and conversations we have all the time with potential sponsors and partners is my injectable portfolio and device, is it affordable? Is it easy to use? Is there a simplified supply chain so in case there is, God forbid, another pandemic or emergency, I'll have access to the raw materials to fill the critical meds and vaccines? Is it scalable? So can I respond to demands in the marketplace and balance emergency preparedness and unforeseen spikes in demand? Environmental sustainability goals, it's a key issue from investors, from the market, and from patients themselves. They want to see us do better and think sustainability, and then ultimately, will they have global reach? Can we access those same meds, and can they be delivered in our developed countries where we're typically developing first, and then bring those to the global markets to serve all? So I want to introduce you to ApiJect and how we're trying to solve some of these problems. There's a short video, which is really the best way to highlight the mission. We'll start it in just a second, but a bit about ApiJect. The API part of ApiJect, when I started, I thought it was active pharmaceutical ingredient. It's actually based off of apiary. So if you think of the device, and I'll show it to you, the spur idea around this was really around a bee sting. So the inventor of the technology, a gentleman named Mark Koska, he's based here in the UK. He was the inventor of the K1 auto-disable syringe. He's credited with saving 10 million lives over the last 20 years with this, so imagine having it on your resume. But he was the founder of ApiJect, and the thought was, how can we take this idea of avoiding needle reuse, but make it into a scalable, efficient process to serve all markets globally? And that's the foundation of ApiJect. We're a public benefit company focusing on bringing safe and affordable injections to all people in all markets. As we say, all means all. And I don't believe I can start it from here, so if you can press play, please. It's a short video, maybe a minute and a half or so.
Every patient in every country.
To improve safety and access for patients all over the planet.
That is why our product design and global health teams conduct research about our prototype devices with patients, healthcare professionals, and administrators in various markets around the world.
And while each market has unique challenges, they all share a universal set of needs. And this insight has inspired us to design a truly amazing and Injectables platform.
Our manufacturing process uses blow-fill-seal because it is highly scalable and cost-efficient. That means we get supply chains that are compact, resilient, and can reduce overall lead times. And with blow-fill-seal, we also get flexible design platforms with robust testing regimens to create pre-filled, easy-to-use products.
Visit our website or YouTube channel or talk to an ApiJect representative to learn how our prefilled device platform can help your injectable products reach more patients in all markets, scalably and cost efficiently.
So this is our first generation device. There's two technologies, tried and true technologies that we use to manufacture it. So what we're doing, yes, it is innovative. It is bringing change to the injectable space, but the technologies being used have been around for decades. So the drug container itself is made through blow-fill-seal, as said in the video. That technology has been around since the 60s. Think of eyedroppers, albuterol, ampules for COPD. My mom has COPD. That technology traditionally has been a container technology, so it's held the drug. ApiJect has turned it into a device, which we know comes with various critical quality attributes. And the second technology is precision inject and molding. It's been around for over 100 years. And where we focused and why we chose these technologies is the efficiency of the manufacturing process. So these come off in strips of about 25 every 8 seconds or so. In one facility, in situ, you create through a mold process with molten plastic, you create the container, fill it, seal it, inspect it, label, package, all in one continuous process, rates up to about 29,000 per hour. Of course, that can be scaled to meet demand. That efficiency is what would allow the market to balance meds in your normal portfolio. Then, of course, God forbid another pandemic or emergency response hits, you can balance that output to meet demands across the globe. The FDA does recognize the process as an advanced aseptic process. We use inline sterile filtration. The footprint for clean air and clean facility to do this is very small. It's in essence just over the fill head, as we call. We have videos online that you can see to better understand the process. No end terminal sterilizations needed or used because of the process. At the point of care, so this is simplicity by design, which in some cases, I think Fatima, yesterday you made a comment of why over-engineer if it's not needed. Certainly there's a number of applications where a complex auto-injector is required, no doubt. But in many cases where it's a unit dose, simplicity can really meet the needs. So at the point of care, this would of course come in a blister pack. This is our needle safety device. But at the point of care, intuitively, there's tabs on here that line up with the slots inside the needle hub, and it's a push to activate. So you push this down, there's actually a double-sided needle in here to pierce the BFS. So that's done at the point of care, and it's designed really for community healthcare workers in developing nations, and then from there, of course, we lend it that educated, trained people, healthcare professionals here in the U.S., or in any countries, and then patients themselves can easily manage and use the device. So we focus a lot, of course, on sustainability. We view that as a tenet to what we're trying to achieve. The industry as a whole is moving in that direction. Plastic, of course, we all know, the challenges of plastic and plastic recycling. So we're not going to, as an industry, I don't think it's reasonable to get away from plastic. So the question is, how can we reduce the amount of plastic in our devices? For ApiJect, it is about reduction of plastic. There's less plastic used in here than even in the plungers and most syringes, but it's also about avoiding glass. Many studies in other industries that use glass and plastic show that it's about 80 to 90% less energy to create the same size container in plastic than it is in glass. And until there is a group here in the UK, the Bioforum Consortium, where it was interesting, I read the report, and they're right that one of the key things, until the regulators understand, and we have to help educate them, how can we start to recycle the plastic that's used? Right now it has to be virgin material. So until we can actually start to recycle, the devices that are used that have drug contact, we focus a lot on the energy consumption. So with glass, it's a tremendous amount of energy to create the containers, transport them because of waste, and then either incinerate them or recycle where you can, versus plastic, a fraction of the energy and the distribution costs and waste. So as I said, there's no terminal sterilization, so you don't have that energy and output on the end, or the ethylene oxide and other challenging ways to end terminal sterilize this. And as we move forward, we're partnering with folks to continue designing, whether it be larger containers and such. How can we continue to make this easy to use and reduce the amount of plastic necessary to meet the needs and end needs of the drug product? So I have one more short video here to show. We have a field research focus group. So part of our iterative design and working with partners is we have access to community healthcare workers across sub-Saharan Africa, India and such, where we can sit with them and demonstrate and have them utilize the devices. This video, the original video, is about 3 minutes long. It's pretty impactful to see how community healthcare workers are being used to administer drugs, because there is a hesitancy in many of these countries of medicines and vaccines. So by having trusted community healthcare workers be there to to provide that level of comfort and safety to the local population is critical. But the key is it has to be an easy-to-use device. So in the video, you'll see that this community healthcare worker, she's had no training. COVID did expose this issue, and so the vaccination. So one of the efforts that the WHO and UNICEF have is recruiting more community healthcare workers to ensure that, God forbid, another pandemic hits, that there are enough people to give these vaccines. So she's a great example. Her name is Esther, and you'll see her frustration in trying to extract the right amount out of a multi-use vial, and then giving her the ApiJect device and how intuitively she can see with no instruction on how to use it. So if you can play the video, please.
Quick aside here, we had IRB approval for this study. We have Esther is the woman's name here. We have her approval for the video. The devices we show here are not ones that were being considered by the FDA. They are other prototypes, and we did not provide any instruction for the use of ApiJect to see how Esther experienced it, and you can see her face light up.
Naona hivi ni rahisi kwa sababu kama dawa iko hapa tayari na si kitu nimezoea sana vivi. Imepinda hii.
Imepinda?
So you see, this is the third attempt in the video. This is her third attempt, and she bends it.
Unaweza kuingaja ukiwa umefungwa. Usijidinge.
Umefungwaje? Okay. Dunga na dungaje vipi? Hivyo. Alafu nitie dawa. Alafu sasa nitoe. Ya nimekosea hiyo.
And that's just one example of the number of studies that we do and how folks just see the simplicity of this and how it can impact and allow them to bring change and ensure that folks in their community, the kids in their community, can get vaccinated. I mean, I asked the group here, we take for granted that medicines are readily available to us. God forbid you have a medicine that's on a drug shortage list and you're experiencing it. But as a parent, imagine if your kid can't get the vaccinations they need through from birth to 5 years old, which is really the critical time inside the global health. But simply not having your kid available, able to get those vaccinations, I mean, that's a horrifying thought for a parent, and that's a lot of what we focus on, is how can we ensure the efficient and safe and effective and affordable devices to avoid those in the future. So I talked about the technology. Sorry, I talked about the technologies. They've been around for a while. It is a simple design, so we get asked a lot, how come nobody's done this before? It is simple, but it's not easy. There's three critical factors that we'd overcome to make this happen. First, as I said, it is a container technology. So engineering, we kept it simple. There are no elastomers, there are no rubber components. It's basically physics and engineering and how we can mirror a soft plastic container to a hard plastic needle hub assembly and allow this to be mated without leaking. So tremendous amount of engineering to do that. With it, of course, comes critical quality attributes that we track. Second is temperature. Historically, blow fill seal, I mean, it is a high temperature process. You are dealing with molten plastic, so historically it's been small molecules, heat stable products like albuterol and such. ApiJect has employed a fair amount of engineering to reduce the overall heat in the process. We've proven that during COVID, we worked with a number of the vaccine manufacturers. We were part of Project Warp Speed as a company, so we put a number of vaccines through the process, some mRNAs, monoclonals, recombinant proteins. We've shown stability for a number of these products through at least 1 year of stability. And the third was particulate inspection. So it's not round, it's translucent, it's not fully clear, so there were no existing technologies that we can use to, now you can do manual inspection, but that's enough to get you perhaps to registration, but certainly not to commercial launch. But that was a critical aspect, so it meets FDA guidelines and Annex 1 for particulate inspection. So I talked about the number of drugs. The first step in our process and working with folks is really to take drug product, 8 liters or so, we can run it through the process to assess stability, potency, to make sure there is no negative ramifications to the drug product. So as we look ahead in the markets that we're serving, these are in no particular order, but these are the 3 market segments we're focusing on. We are a global health company at our core. Mark Koska comes with that mindset of saving, we all are here to save lives, but Mark has made it his life's mission of providing safe and effective injections for all. So we have a global health group based out of Geneva, run by Dr. Ed Kelly. He's our Chief Global Health Officer. We've engaged all of the stakeholders within global health. It's been recognized we have good visibility across those organizations. They recognize that we can bring real change to that marketplace. So we are partnering with various pharma companies to bring vaccines forward into those markets and/or critical meds. The emergency response, so that's really in collaboration with the U.S. government. As I said, we initially were founded to address issues around pan flu back in 2018. Then when COVID hit, we got pulled into Project Warp Speed because the U.S. government recognizes this is really the only population scale way to fill and finish injectables readily and cost effectively. So with that, we are part of what's called the FDA's Emerging Technology Program, where the FDA recognizes innovation is needed in manufacturing and fill finish. So the number of benefits that come with that, when you get access to reviewers and the ability to actually collaborate on how would you employ and bring aboard innovation into a regulated space, how would they review it? And that program includes 3 registrations. ApiJect is actually bringing a project forward on our own, so we have a generic program, a generic product, I should say, that we're bringing forward into the ApiJect platform, really to demonstrate and prove to the marketplace that the FDA has given its thumbs up. They do see a path forward with this technology. We're also working with a company based out of Spain, Hipra, that is a vaccine company. They started off in animal health, but when COVID hit, they recognized it was a coronavirus. They had 20 years or so of experience in coronavirus in the animal health world. They've employed their technology. Their product on the market is called BeamerVax. It's a multi-dose vial, but we're working with them to transition from multi-dose vial to a single prefilled format. And then lastly, not least, is the commercial pharma. So working with pharma companies on how can we bring immediate impact to the industry. And when we're engaging with folks, one of the markets is generic products, where by design it's a me too product, right? You're not intending change in your formulation. So how do you differentiate your me too product in a crowded market space? So they're talking to us about product differentiation and/or how can they bring a product from a single-use vial to the ApiJect platform for all the safety benefits that we all know is inherent with a prefilled format. We can provide the safety and benefit of a prefilled format at about the same cost of a single-use vial. So affordability is at the heart of what we're trying to achieve. We recognize that yes, you can make this more complex. Yes, it can be more expensive in developed countries, but it won't serve the global needs. So we've tried to keep it simple. How do we make it affordable? You can see on the left a number of factors that we employ to make it affordable. Ultimately, on the right is the comparison of various presentations. So we're about half the cost or so of a prefilled syringe. Yesterday there was some talk, I think it was Anna from Pfizer was talking about plastic syringes. With all the challenges that we saw in glass, there has been a shift to some degree in using cyclic polyolefin and CZ syringes. Those are more readily available, but certainly typically more expensive. They also have challenges in manufacturing. But when you compare all factors of manufacturing costs, transportation, waste, et cetera, we're on par in developed countries with single-use vials. We're about half the cost or so of prefilled syringes. But when you look at global health markets, because of that change in total cost delivered, total cost of dose delivered, when you factor in waste and breakage, the administration costs to do multiple injections, we have cost parity in the global health markets against multi-dose vials. And that's a huge change in that industry. Imagine that there are no pre-filled formats right now in global health settings. So we're fundamentally making changes and bringing much needed innovation to that market, which then, of course, we believe and hope will translate into developed countries as well. So we're partnering. We talked earlier, there was comments that nobody does this alone. 2 minutes? Okay. Nobody does this alone. So we do this in conjunction and collaboration with sponsors. ApiJect, this is a process that we've outlined with the FDA through the Emerging Technology Program. Our focus was how can we bring immediate change to the industry while then working long-term with developing programs and clinical development. So we've proven this pathway with the FDA where we can bring a marketed drug or vaccine in a vial prefilled syringe into the ApiJect platform, avoiding clinical trials through a bio waiver, and we can do this in about 15 to 18 months. So we've identified key medicines and vaccines. We're engaging pharma companies to bring this change now. The biggest challenge we have is really status quo and inertia of making innovation changes in a regulated industry is not easy. So finding those partners that see the need for change and want to make the change and have the mindset to make that change has been difficult. Many folks see the value, but they want to be second or third. That's common. But we're finding a good mix of folks that see we can do this in a low-cost, low-risk way. So that's with the existing generation, as I'm showing here, the existing prototype. We do have the capabilities with an ApiJect to bring forward for drugs in clinical and/or changes needed for specific user need. We can do that full development and design within the ApiJect platform. So here in London, we have a design studio where we can ideate and create 3D prototypes. From there, we can assess the manufacturability in our North Carolina facility, and then based on that to say, yeah, we can manufacture it. Yes, we can create a mold. We actually have a machine shop and non-GMP facility in Orlando where we can create the molds and then create the actual devices and do a non-GMP fill down in Orlando with whether it be placebo, drug product, or saline. And then from there, you can assess stability and suitability of your drug product, as well as do functional testing to ensure that the device meets the critical needs and end user needs for the drug itself. Because it is plastic, because it is a mold technology, you have much more flexibility in your design and your manufacturing capabilities in glass. So right now we are focused on injections, but we have companies engaging us to talk about nasal, to talk about ophthalmics. That somebody mentioned earlier, intradermal, so certainly that is a key for some vaccines. and then lure lock and other ways to deliver meds. Right now, our focus has been primarily IM and sub-Q. We are a one-stop shop in the sense that we can bring products from idea to final development in collaboration with sponsors, and with the Field Research Network, we can do real-time testing in the field before we move into full development. But the key is, there's much needed change in the industry. We need to reassess the glass sterile fill finish. How can we reduce the use of plastic? How can we make things more affordable, easier to use? The change is needed. We're working on that now. We feel we have a good solution. We're looking for the right partners that see the need for change and want to be part of that and driving the innovation in the industry. So with that, we have a booth here. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, come and speak with me, but happy to take any questions. And hopefully I didn't run too long.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's okay.
So thank you both for the presentation. It was hard to come after a panel discussion about sustainability to convince us that the future is a platform with the plastic. So I think you did well. So any question?
Thank you for your talk. So this solution seems very brilliant by its simplicity. But I wonder, I see a lot some technical issues with MABs. So you had a slide to show the limited temperature exposure during the filling. But what about the container closure? Because I once visited a BFS supplier, and the closure was made by a thermal treatment as well. So is there another solution? And another barrier I can see is that, to my knowledge, LDP resin is permeable to oxygen, which can cause a problem for long storage. Do you have some stability data at least one MAB?
Yes, so I believe your first question was around container closure. You made a comment that something was a terminal sterilized, did you comment? Or
thermal sealing to seal the plastic.
Yeah, so that is part of the manufacturing process that we have videos online, but it is a two mold process. So there's two blow fill seal processes. There's rotary and shuttle. We primarily use rotary. What that is the mold is what seals this container. There is a shuttle technology where you in essence use what's called a hot knife to close and seal the container. We use the rotary. Right now, we've not seen any challenges with container closure integrity. We've done freeze-thaw assessments, looked at this at -80. There is a way to analyze container closure using CO2 headspace analysis. We're in the process of doing that now, but we have no indication of challenges for container closure. Your second question was around stability. Yes, you're right. So what I'm showing you is the container just so you can see it, but yes, there is oxygen permeability and vapor permeability. It's an LDPE plastic. So this would come in a foil pouch, which is standard in the BFS industry. In that pouch, with various vaccines that we've done feasibility studies, they showed equivalent stability as glass presentations for a year or more. And in the BFS space, particularly for inhalation, albuterol and other small molecules are typically stored for 2 years or so. Right now it has to be at least a year, but you can see we've seen stability in the industry for at least 2 years in this package. We are looking at the next generation. Are there other plastics that are as flexible that would provide better barrier properties? But that's for future iterations.
So thank you, Bo. I think we are over time. I will suggest just to go to our morning coffee networking and continue discussion with Bo. They are, I think, exposed in the other area. So thank you for your interaction. Thank you to the audience for active participation. It was great to chair this part of the day, and we will see each other in 20 minutes. I think. See you.